Scott, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay.
Can you hear the music okay?
I can hear the music okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to SpeakEasy HR. What do you think of that intro music, Scott?
I like it. Hey, you got it going on.
Yeah, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great. Glad for thanks for having me.
Yeah. No, this has been, we've talked since you came and spoke at a chamber event, and I have not really heard you talk much. So that was my first time hearing you live and, hearing your story. I was like, well, you're a great guest to have if I get this up off the ground. So I'm glad that you are my second guest, episode 2. So welcome everybody. I know this takes a few minutes to get loaded with everybody. We had a pretty good amount of attendance invited and accepted the invite from LinkedIn. So you can watch this on YouTube and LinkedIn after it's live. So if you are not watching it live, obviously, if you are and want to, chime in, just say where you're watching. If you have questions for Scott, we'll go through, a lot on this conversation with him. But first off, this show, SpeakEasy HR, is sponsored by Payroll Partners. Elevate your HR and payroll experience. We have a great team in Cincinnati area helping with HR and payroll technology. So if you are a business owner, if you're an HR, payroll, and it's just not working well for you and your team, give us a call, check in, and we work with businesses up to 2,000 lives. So definitely check us out. Again, sponsored by Payroll Partners. So got the chat up. It looks like people are able to watch. So we have one watching from New Jersey, Lucy. Thank you, Lucy. We have Lauren watching from Pennsylvania. Lance Miller up in Tip City, Ohio. Welcome, Lance. So glad everybody's able to tune in. Hopefully we have no network connections or network issues today like I had on the last episode. So first off, Scott McGowan, welcome. And we've got a lot to talk about. This is a very interesting topic that when I came to you, just like I come with every guest to ask, what topic are you most passionate about that you want to bring onto this show with me? And, you clearly had one in mind. You've been through a lot with insurance and running a business. So, Scott, I'm going to give you the floor to just introduce yourself, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, perfect. Well, Dave, thanks for everything. Scott McGowan, been married 36 years to my best friend. Her name's Lori. I've got 2 kids, and both of them are adults. Courtney, age 35, married to a guy named Jack. 2 grandkids, Jackson, 8, Ellison, who's 5. And those of us that maybe have grandchildren would understand that maybe we should have had them first. This planet would be a pretty nice place to live. Son, Taylor, and he's married to a girl named Megan, and they're expecting their first child. So spent 35 years at McGowan Brabender. Started that company with we had 7 people. Retired in April. I think we had maybe 280 people when I left. I've still got some gas in the tank, so it's like, hey, I'm not sure what's next. So
congratulations on the first retirement, right? So
yes.
Going in a different route, and I think it's awesome. And you did write a book. I've read this, and I got this at your last event I was at the Chamber in Northern Kentucky. So if you want to just quickly, for people who haven't seen this Culture is an Inside Job book, just tell people about it and where you can find it and what you wanted to do with this book for people that read it.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, and I would probably say that I've watched a lot of organizations over my career grow, and I've watched a lot of organizations think that culture is about ball chairs and ping pong tables, and that's not what culture is about. And a beautiful culture should be authentic, and it should be vibrant. It should be full of stories. And so I wanted to put together kind of a book around, hey, what would culture look like? Now, on the flip side, I also wanted to create an environment where people maybe might not be sitting back saying, "Hey, I wish the company would do this for me," or "I wish my company would feel this way," or "I wish our company would do this," and like all these different aspects, because I deeply believe we're all responsible for the culture. Each of us bring our own culture to the table. And so culture is an inside job is really around personal cultural reflection, how I bring myself to life. And had a lot of fun writing it, had a lot of fun putting it together. There's a lot of stories in there that I'm not very proud of. And there's many things in my life I'm very proud of, but they say life's a wonderful teacher and she rarely gets an apple on her desk. That book is full of apples.
Yeah, well, good for you writing this. And, anybody that's looking to maybe fix their culture or take another route with culture and what you really understand about culture. And if this can help you, I would strongly suggest getting this from Scott. So again, just definitely wanted to bring that up because it's a great book. And like you said, everyone impacts the culture, and it doesn't have to be the owner, the CFO, the HR director. It's everybody. And so, yeah, Lauren, I think that's a great comment for people that haven't seen these comments come up. But 1,000, 10,000%, it takes everyone to make a great workplace culture. So thanks for that comment, Lauren. All right. Well, Scott, I gave you these questions, this random question segment that I did not do in my last live, but I've got 15 envelopes and 1 through 15. I sent you the questions so you weren't totally caught off guard, but do you have a favorite number? Do you want to pick a number 1 through 15 and we'll see what's in here?
Let's have Lauren pick a number.
Oh, okay.
Can she
I
do
like
that?
Lauren,
Yeah.
if you're watching, pick a number 1 through 15.
I appreciate the fact that she had that great comment. That would be wonderful. Let's
Imagine,
see.
hopefully she is still watching. If not, let's just.
Oh, here we go.
7. Okay. Number.
Thank you, Lauren. 7. I appreciate it.
I was wondering if it'd be 7 or 13 or one of those numbers that everybody usually goes for in the lottery. Oh, Scott, you're not going to like this question. You already know what it is, don't you?
No.
It's the one we just talked about.
We were walking through this beforehand, and I was like, rapper. I don't know that I know rapper.
Good job, Lauren. Thanks for picking 7. That's awesome.
But I've watched a little bit of Eminem on his transition from where he was to where he is today.
Yeah.
And I kind of like the depth of his vulnerability today. So I can honestly say I answered the question that I hope I wasn't going to be asked. So Lauren, thank you very much.
That's great. Yeah. And I said, Scott, before we jumped on live, I said, I saw a clip on TikTok or YouTube, and it was Family Feud, and it was the best rappers of all time. And the person videotaping the segment only, the two families only got half of them right. And so, Tupac and Eminem were up there. I don't remember who number 1 was. I think it might have been Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg was number 1, which he's in the Olympics, in the ads for the Olympics. So, I mean, he's growing up in the 80s and 90s, and the rap back then was not like it is now. So anyway, great question. Jesse, culture is an inside job for the people watching. So she asked what the book was called. Culture is an inside job. Where can they find this, Scott? You
on Amazon.
Amazon. Yep. Okay. Scott McGowan, culture is an inside job. So now to your topic, Scott. So, and I talked to you before we jumped on. I got this shirt I like TikTok. So people that are watching, I do like TikTok. I have bought some things on TikTok, but everyone is fighting a battle you know nothing about. When I heard your topic, I had this shirt already because I knew people would come on and talk about mental health. And the company that makes this is a guy named Andy and his niece named Sophie. And when you buy one of his shirts, he had a stroke back a few years ago, and he sends you these handwritten thank you cards with the shirt. And so it was like $20, and it's like a super soft shirt. So I told them, I said, I'm going to have you on my upcoming show on LinkedIn and YouTube. So hopefully they see this. And she was just so thrilled that I even brought that up to have it on my show, because, again, this is something that I'm sure, Scott, you're going to talk about, but everybody is fighting this battle that a lot of people may know nothing about. When you ask someone in the hallway, hey, how's your day going? How you doing? Good. Are they really doing good? Or are they really having a hard time through work, life, family, balance of stress and trying to pay bills and just a lot that's going on right now in the unknown world of, what we live in. So anyway, I wanted to throw that in there because if you want to support this small business, this guy, you can look him up on social media. But like, again, I went on TikTok and I saw that. I'm like, I'm buying that shirt. And so every time I have someone on talking mental health, this is going to be the shirt. So anyway, wanted to bring that up, and which leads me into your topic, Scott. So I'm going to give you the floor. Obviously, we're going to have some discussion about this. If anyone is watching and has questions as we go, I'll try to keep up with the questions if you want to wait till he's finished. But Scott, you brought to the chamber when we had you talk about your past, and it was just so inspiring to me, and I think everybody in the room heard it. So bringing life to mental health, let's get into that a little bit.
Yeah, I think I grew up, I was let's see, I wore a patch on one eye because I had a lazy eye. So I've heard every pirate joke known to mankind. I'm dyslexic. So
Me too.
reading when I was younger in school was really complicated and wonky. And then I'm an identical twin. So growing up, we had to wear the same clothes. And so I really fought with, hey, like, what is my identity? Who am I going to be? And I was, sadly just trying to be different than the guy that was like in the bed next to me that looked just like me. And that just progressed, and it progressed in a way as I got older into this really warped sense of self-worth, which was, I thought self-worth equaled performance. So the faster I went, the more I did, plus your opinion of me told me that I was okay. And then deep down, sadly, the opinions of other people meant more than my own opinion of myself. So, and that brings us to a really super dark, like lonely place to be. I thought if I drove the right car, had the right job, wore the right clothes, lived in the right house, that society would say, hey, you're okay. And I just tried to fill this big hole in my soul with things, and nothing,
Yeah.
nothing worked. And then about 16 years ago, I kind of got on my knees, and it's a threat I don't recommend, but I asked God to take away the pain, or I was, maybe considering doing that myself. And that was, I have 2 kids, wife, dog, great career. And it was just a really, really lonely place. And I got to a spot where, I just walked in the recovery rooms of, South Dayton and said, my name's Scott, and my soul is cooked. That was my answer. My soul is cooked. And I had nothing. And then looking back, it was the first time in my life I ever gave up and I won. Because what I was able to do is, when I was about 8 years old, I used to love to sit in it. We had a tree house in the backyard, and I used to love to draw. And even at 8 or 9, I'd write poetry. And then society told me that little boys don't after all, and little boys don't write poetry. Now, no one physically told me that. Those are the lies that I told myself.
Yeah.
So in that recovery journey, I got to go back and sit in this treehouse with this 8-year-old, and kind of say, hey, last time we met, this is what you love to do. This is where you thought you'd wanted to be. And so what happened? And so that journey of going at 43, going all the way back to 8 years old was just really cool.
Hmm.
And it took a long time to be able to say, I don't care what society thinks of me today. I don't care what your opinion is of me. I took off 10 masks. I had a mask for a golf course, a mask for a bar, a mask for church, a mask for my house, a mask for my job, a mask for a CEO who's analytical, a mask for a CEO who wasn't. I mean, I had a briefcase full of masks, and they were heavy and exhausting and almost took my life. So I just threw them away. So, I felt redemption and restoration in my own life and thought, you know what, I'm just going to bring this to life inside of organizations. So that's why I care about it.
So when you were going through all this, how many people knew what you were dealing with? Like when you started feeling like, yeah, there's something not going right, were you married? Were you single? Were you, running a business and, you were keeping that inside, or were you, like where were you in that whole journey? And was that all inside of you, or when did you start bringing that out?
Yeah. I mean, married 20 years, 2 kids, job, back then, 20 years, 16 years ago. I mean, I was in sales. I wasn't the CEO at that time. Leading sales, probably number 1 in sales. I was like almost leading a men's ministry in my church. Right. And so from the outside, it looked like I had all the pieces put together, but on the inside, I was Humpty Dumpty, just broken on the ground. And I met myself in the mirror. You brush your hair or you brush your teeth, you see yourself. But I'd really encourage maybe even your audience, like just look at yourself one time and have your eyes meet your own eyes and look like deep in your soul. And the big question is do you like the person looking back? And 16 years ago, I hated the person looking back. Couldn't stand him.
Yeah.
And even the good book teaches us to love our neighbor as ourself. The problem is if we don't love ourselves, like humanity doesn't have a shot.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I mean, it starts obviously early on when you have a twin and you're being made fun of, and now bullying with social media and technology that you and I growing up didn't have. We got outside and we rode our bikes around and we called our friends on the phone at home to play. So, even the life of a teenager now compared to when we were teenagers is so different. So, looking at that and the mental health statistics and the way that society and everything right now is influencing that, it brings to light, like, okay, you go through school, you're told, yeah, you need to be an accountant, or you need to be a banker, or you need to get into whatever. I keep seeing things about find what you love to do, and when you're in your 20s, try to make a career out of it, right? And I don't know, getting into insurance, if that was like your dream job, if you stumbled into it, just like a lot of people stumble into HR and stumble into insurance. It's like, oh, and that's one of the questions in here is like, what did you want to be when you were in grade school? I wanted to be a marine biologist. And it's like, so, if people watching this, or people that are in HR, or people that are going through school, it's like, you can change jobs, you can change different paths, but like the faster you realize what you feel like you could do and enjoy every day, is going to make it such worthwhile when you're 20 years into it. And, I didn't get an HR right out of college. I went to college for sport management. I wanted to play college golf and then go pro. And, I got through college golf great, but I realized I was not good enough to play on the PGA Tour, and that's okay because I love what I do, and it's like, so the more and more that people can, live in their means when they're in their 20s, and try to find something that they feel like they can get up and enjoy and feel passionate about, and when I'm bringing on folks, it's like, what are you super passionate about? Because there's got to be a story behind that, like you sharing your story and growing up with a twin and everything you dealt with, and like you were close to making a really bad choice, and I've known several people that have made that choice, unfortunately. I've had a cousin, I've had friends in college, and it's like they're the people that you last think that would do something like that. Just like people looking at you and having this job, it's like, you know you look at those people and you're like, oh, they've got the best life, they've got a perfect life, and it's just like, so that, as I've seen that a lot, it's like, you can pivot and you can adjust your career a little bit, but obviously having a work-life balance and things like that really play into it too. Scott, you brought up at the last time I saw you in person, the amount of people, that are on some kind of antidepressant. Um, you know, just give me some of your thoughts on that, and like, what do you think of that when it comes to the future, and how mental health, especially in the workplace, because I think that's the next chapter in your career, is helping companies with that, because I've looked at, and I've done a quick poll on LinkedIn, and I looked at it and I said, on a scale from 1 to 10, how do you feel like your company supports mental health? And the numbers were low. Like the average was 3 or 4 out of a 10. So companies aren't doing enough. I feel like they want to make it a priority, but they don't know where to start. So, what do you think about that? And let me hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah, I think one thing would be the fact that we don't get to leave our problems on the kitchen table or on our dresser when we go to work.
Yeah.
Like they show up, they come in our pockets, they stay in our purses. We bring our whole self to work, and sometimes our whole self sucks. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes life is kicking us in the teeth, and we need help, and we're afraid to say I need help because I'm afraid if I tell my boss or I tell my manager or somebody knows that I'm going to lose my job. And I think, sadly, at least in my experience, most people deeply care about other human beings in their life.
Yeah.
And because nobody wakes up and says, you know what, I want to do a really bad job at work today. How do I go in there and how do I screw up my life? No, and it ranges from, if you've got maybe fertility is kicking you and your spouse's tail. Maybe it's financial fear. Maybe you're terrified of your mailbox. Terrified every time you go to it. You don't want to open it up, and maybe you're taking care of your own kids, and your mom and dad are sick. So now you got your parents and your kids, and maybe your son or daughter is getting bullied at school. You talk about getting someone's dander up. You can pick on me. You can do a lot of things to me, and I'm probably brave enough and strong enough to tolerate it. But you start picking on my grandkids or my kids,
Yeah.
and you've got just addiction issues. Like people say, why do I embarrass myself when I drink? Or questions around healthcare. What if it's cancer? I mean, you name it. Like
Yeah.
all of those things are traveling in people's lives.
Yeah.
In every single organization. And when you're brave enough as a leader to stand up and say, I've made some mistakes before. And, and maybe it's, I've lied and that's the consequences of not telling the truth or,
Yeah.
and when other people know that leaders are capable of making a mistake, the organization can shift and change. But there's way too many leaders that think their job is to look perfect and stoic and
Yeah.
mindful and to have all the answers. And that's not your job. Your job is to be inspiring. And one of the ways to be inspiring is to let people know that you're a human being
Yep.
living life on life's terms. And sometimes life's terms suck. And
Yeah.
that's the truth.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you bring up a good point because I've been in different environments, when it comes to how companies are ran, big and small, and how much the leaders can influence the culture and influence the trajectory of the company. But when you work, and I've seen more people talk about, like, oh, you're in a company, and you're speaking as it's a family, and then it's like, oh, welcome to our family, welcome to our family. And to some extent that's welcoming as a new employee, and it's good that everyone wants to bring you in. But then you get in the weeds of, like, personal and professional relationships, and how that can impact when people bring so much to the environment. So it's, every culture is going to be different, every environment's going to be different. Like, you just, even if you have a company and you have multiple locations, or you have people working from home, especially over the last few years, people still are working from home. Some go back to the office, and you like to see people and collaborate and talk in person. So it's like, we really look at, and I try to see what people think about, like, actually having, an environment that people feel like they can, voice their opinions, be challenged. But it can't just be the managers influencing that. It's got to be everybody. So a leader can be, an employee that's been at a company for 10 years or 5 years or 2 years. They may not manage people, but they can influence a the other people on their team, especially when they give them recognition, those simple thank yous, those simple. So, like, there's so many things, and I think a lot of that, it ties into the mental health of employees. It ties into the, someone might be having a horrible day, they get on the road, they have road rage. I know sometimes when I get on the highway, it's like people are just not paying attention, and it's like, you are starting my day in my way, like, get out of my way. And then you just go to work, and you have this, like, different mindset based on having that drive to work. So then you get to work, and then you have someone that calls you out and says, hey, great job. And they call you out in front of everybody, and they recognize you, and it's like, that doesn't have to just be the managers, it doesn't have to be the owner. So um you know I think every culture can have, obviously, the environment that everyone should feel welcome, and calling it a family, as Lauren said. I do strongly believe that that is sometimes a red flag.
We
um
had at McGowan Brabender, one of our values was family. And what was interesting is we were interviewing someone, and I'm going back about 10 years. No, maybe 5, something like that. And I said family is our number one value. And this person we were interviewing, she kind of like twitched. And I go, what's that? She goes, oh, it's nothing. I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm curious. And I'm asking you in a really humble way. And she said, no, it's okay. And I'm like, no, no, no. Like, I'm really curious. I said, now I'm not going to let you out. Now you're going to have to tell me. And
yeah,
she said what Lauren said. She goes, I have a family. I don't want another one. I was like, oh, I see. So in other words, I need to be more descriptive in what I mean by that word. And she said, oh,
yeah,
yeah. So I started to talk about that. So in the midst of all of that, what we ended up doing is, because those values were 20 years old when we had them on the wall,
yeah,
we pulled them all off the wall. And then we sent out this new culture team to define, hey, what are our new core truths? And what would those look like? And so, I can't tell how young Lauren is, but she's a lot younger than I am. So I'm 59. So if we start looking at our workforce, there's people in multiple generations. They bring different values. They
oh, yeah,
bring different words. And like we say, one of them is cultivating a culture of care. The other one is using uncommon sense, because calling people back isn't common today.
Yeah.
right? So we had this new language around grit, determination, beauty, environment, like all of these really cool words, and we bring those to life in the organization. Um, or we could have just been stoic and immature and just kept those up there, and that would have been arrogant, and that would have accomplished nothing.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And Lucy's been also chiming in, and she said we use team, and we have 5 core values at our company, and it spells out topic. So there are the 5 core values that, team player, some of the things that, ownership is, to me, like we try to ask new hires, like, hey, you're going to learn our core values. You're going to understand where we're at as a company, as a small business, and some of them have been in companies that have core values and a mission and vision. And, if you've had the stagnant core values for 20 years, obviously it might be time to change them, like you had went through that exercise. So, now it's like, I mean, I've even heard people have have a theme where it is 2 words outside of your core values that you go around to everybody at the company, and they should know. Obviously, everyone should know your core values, but can you go to everybody and say, what are our 5 core values? And you might caught them off guard. But having a 2-word theme as a company, like, a lot of nonprofits, it seems like, have like this, culture theme. And so it's really interesting. So anybody watching, obviously, if you haven't evaluated your core values, and that's part of your responsibility, is to have those, in writing on the walls, and talk to new hires, and really approach meetings and approach day-to-day responsibilities with those core values in mind. It might be time to change them. So again, if you take away anything from this, obviously you can't fix behavioral health issues. You can't, the mental health and the mental stability of everybody at the company is sometimes out of your control, but you can at least have that, mindset and fundamental values that you can bring and really uplift them, so that you can have, a culture that you really want to have continue to evolve in the right way, and bring people in that may not have had that where they came from. People leave companies because of managers. People leave companies for a lot of reasons. But anyways, Lauren said she is definitely younger than you, Scott. So she said, we joke at my company all the time that we'd like our team to be a lot less dysfunctional than our families. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it's nice to go to a work environment and talk about things non-work related, because you work with people a lot. You build those relationships, and you build that, camaraderie as a team. Obviously everybody sometimes doesn't want to work together as a team. So it's like, how can you, make that better? But,
I think as leaders too, I think one
Yeah.
of the things that was really important, and especially I would probably where I sat from like on a CEO level, would be the work will get done.
Right.
People will do their job. There's no question about it. The work will get done.
Right.
Be in relationship with your workforce. I mean, if walk around, see their work environment, see what sports teams like, see what kids are involved in. They play soccer, or they play lacrosse, or maybe they're on a dance team. Whatever your workforce, what do they care about? It's in front of them. It's in their office, or it's in their cube. That's what they deeply care about. And when you understand the names of the children of the family members, when you understand what they deeply care about, when you walk around in your relationship, not in their role, not asking them why they're doing it that way, but you're in relationship with them, the work will get done. And, my dad told me years ago that everybody needs encouragement, and the people that deserve it the least need it the most. So if there's one thing I can tell the audience, would be anybody inside their company that's just sucking air. It's easy to celebrate the rock stars, number one in sales,
Yep.
the people that are always there on time, they never leave early. right? Sometimes those people are more dangerous than the broken.
Yeah.
And when you can encourage people when they don't deserve it, what you do is you give them a reputation to live up to.
Yeah.
And maybe that's all they need.
Yeah.
And it's important.
Yeah. And this goes for, obviously your personal life, but also professionally. It's like, you know, how can you be a better version of yourself than you were yesterday? It's that it's that mindset of being 1% better every day, finding, people you want to be surrounded by to bring out the best in you. And, going through COVID and going through things I've gone through, over the last few years, I have found people, obviously to help me be a better version of myself. And so it goes along with, having a good mentor, having a good, stable core group as your resource
Mhm.
to go to, whether it's for personal or professional. And there are people that I connect with still that I met 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And it's just to get some advice, when it comes to, networking and, helping me along my career. So it's just like, finding those kinds of people can help you be a better version of yourself. So we had a question come up, Scott. It was, how and when did you know you need to seek professional help and treatment?
Well, I think for me, I was really just blessed with the fact that I had watched people. Unfortunately, had been a part of like suicide. Had been a part of my life, and I had seen maybe the shrapnel that leaves inside of family and friends, and maybe as much as maybe as my threat wasn't really. I think my threat was more a cry for help than it was anything as a result. And uh, I, I just had enough.
Yeah.
And I reached out and talked to some friends. I'll tell you, anybody inside of any company, there's people inside that company that have dealt with this and they know it. So if someone says, "Well, I don't have anyone to talk to," I think, and I don't need saying this out loud, but that's a lie, because I think the fact of the matter is you're afraid to talk about it. That's okay.
Yeah.
Every organization has an EAP, an employee assistance program. Those are available to people. They're free too. I can talk to a counselor. I can talk to a therapist. I can do that on a text. I can text to somebody. Faith, if you go to a church, there's probably some sort of organization. There's community resources. There's all kinds of resources
Yeah.
that are available to people. The simple answer is I can't find anybody is a really bad answer, because there's a lot out there.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan. I can't stand when I Google something and everything's sponsored. It'd be like, come on, let me get past the sponsor page. Let me
Yeah.
find someone local that I can talk to. But I heard a long time ago that often our brain is like a bad neighborhood and we shouldn't be there alone. So do not stay alone in your own noggin. It's a
Yeah.
dangerous place to live.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. I think there's more and more people that hopefully are understanding the resources that are out there, because there are a lot, like you said, and hopefully they are getting the treatment that they need or feel like they can go somewhere. It's not uncommon now to hear that someone has a nutrition coach. They have a, a career coach. They have obviously a primary care doctor or a health coach. Like, there's so many different coaches that someone might have in their lives beyond just a mental health coach or a therapist. So it's like it's different for everybody, and a lot of it is intertwined. Basically, your health can influence if you obviously have addiction to drugs and alcohol and all of the things that people try to suppress the feelings, and it just gets worse and worse. And so there are obviously some avenues now that add up to being, you might have 3 or 4 different coaches that are in your life to make you a better person. So the more you realize how and who might that be, the better off you'll be in the future. So anybody have any other questions for Scott? I did want you to talk about your next venture that you have, started to create, and so what are you going to be doing in the future, Scott? And
Yeah, well, let me answer one more question that you asked me about, and it was around prescription drugs,
yeah,
because I
yeah,
think we have 5% of the world's population, and we consume 80% of every prescription drug made on Earth. So we could give 13 pills for every man, woman, and child that live on Earth for what we chew, eat, and swallow in the United States. So we're consumed with prescription drugs. 1 in 5 people are on antidepressant today. Now, I'm a big fan of um, prescription drugs. I think for some that can be very, very useful.
yeah,
I do think that there are some that might go to their primary care doctor for an antidepressant, and a lot of primary care physicians don't understand dosage amounts and limits.
yeah,
So the fact that you're even on it, it might not even be working. But we live in a healthcare system, and I'm not picking on primary care docs, but if I give you a prescription, what do you have to do? You got to come back.
yeah,
And I also know if I don't give you one, you're going to go somewhere else and get one anyway.
yeah,
So I think dosage amount is a really big is a really important part. And I think even, Lucy had asked, sometimes it's difficult for people to admit they need help, and that is the birthing of our new company called One Morning. So it is a way through employers to create stories that embrace and acknowledge the lonely, tired, broken, and afraid. Is to bring up just humble stories around people living life on life's terms, whether it be around big issues like around alcohol or around substance abuse or around domestic violence or around financial fear or grief or kids getting bullied at school or marital problems or jobs. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on and on and on. They're not clinical. It's not a clinical story. It's a personal story around somebody in our neighborhood that has gone through something. So what happened? Who do I reach out to, and where am I? Where am I now? And I think for the most part, if I watch somebody beside me, it'd be like, wow, that was pretty impactful. I might be able to pick up that. I think I might be able to, I think I might be able to take that next step.
yeah.
I think, you ever read the book, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse?
No, but I saw your video on that. That was
Oh,
on LinkedIn.
that might be one of the most beautiful books I've ever read. It is an incredible book, and it's all around the human condition. Because in that book, like all 4 of those are us. Those
Yeah,
aren't 4 separate entities.
yeah,
So, yeah, and I think society is accepting mental health in a really cool, beautiful way today. I think it's different. I
yeah,
think parents are accepting it differently. I think different generations are accepting it. I think we're ready to be a lot more vulnerable.
yeah. So what is the company's called One Morning?
One morning.
And how is this going to be different than like an EAP program? So when you do have this kind of ready to roll out, and people can obviously find that, which you're working on the website, you've got some stuff going. So how is that going to be different if someone has an EAP now and they're like, this sounds like a really neat program?
Well, most EAPs, there's some barriers. So the first barrier is the fact that if I call a therapist today, kind of like what Lucy said today, it might take me 10 weeks to get into a therapist. That's if I can get in.
Yeah,
That's a barrier. The second barrier is the fact that that therapist might cost $150 to $175. That's a barrier. Where an EAP, an employee assistance program, 75% of every companies offer them. Only 22% of people actually know they have it.
yep, yep,
The perception is that HR is telling me about it because I'm in trouble, which
yep,
is bad.
yep,
And then the other big thing is the fact that they feel like, well, I can't bring big issues to work because they're going to call my employer and they're going to tell me what's going on. All of those are lies.
yep,
If you believe in HIPAA, if you believe in like keeping your medical records on my chart, which I do, you are protected under HIPAA, under your EAP, and under an EAP, it's free. So where does one morning come into play? One morning stands in front of any existing EAP. And one morning, all it does is gently nudge people to reach out and ask for help. I
Yeah.
do believe EAPs are a beautiful solution short term. There are a
Yeah.
lot of people that need longer term,
Yeah.
right, assistance and help, maybe more face to face. But like Lucy said too, they're not promoted enough. There's no onboarding. I don't sign up for it. I don't understand how to use it. I don't understand that actually my 17-year-old daughter can use it. I don't have a 17-year-old daughter, but
Yeah.
if I had a 17-year-old daughter, she could use it as well.
Yeah.
So we're test piloting 2 employers right now. We'll start on Thursday, do a
That's
little
great.
beta for about 6 weeks, see how
Yeah.
it works, and who
That's awesome.
knows?
That's awesome. Yeah. I cannot wait to hear more about it. And I wish you the best with those two, pilot programs. And, are you going to focus on a certain company size? Are you going to be keeping that open to really any company size that's out there? Are you, what's your
Yeah, I
thought
mean, it's
behind?
really gonna be open to all size companies.
Okay.
When I started at McGowan Braybender and we had the 7th employee, I'd be out of my car selling groups of 4 and 5, right?
Yeah.
2 guys in a shop, Joe's
Yeah.
Radiator. As we became bigger, then all of a sudden, like universities and cities became really important to us. And
Yep.
throughout the whole history, it's like, well, you guys probably need to get away from those smaller employers. Like, no way, man. They
Yeah.
trusted us when we started. We were
Yeah.
never going to surrender those folks.
Yeah.
So when we built this model, it is with mental health, it's one size fits all, right? So we're gonna lean in and love people and hopefully make a difference in people's life.
Yeah. I love that. Lean in, love people, and we can't promote that enough. So I'm super excited for you, Scott. I wish you all the best, and hopefully, as you get this up and running, maybe next year you can come back on and we can talk more about it, because it's going to be an ongoing discussion, I think, for quite some time, and it's just going to be gaining more awareness and what you're focused on. I think it's awesome. You could easily have just retired and gone somewhere nice and warm and enjoyed your life, and you're not. Obviously, you probably have some time to do that, not being working full time. So this is kind of your passion project, but I'm excited to see where you take it. So, anybody have any other final questions before we jump off here with Scott? I'll obviously, have this up on YouTube and LinkedIn. So if you didn't get a chance to watch it all, if you did stay for the whole thing, I appreciate you all watching. Scott, anything else you want to add before we jump out of here?
Mhm. I think the only thing is the fact that, like your shirt says, everybody's fighting something.
Yeah.
And what
Yep.
I've found is when we ask somebody the third question is when the truth comes out. And like I might say, "How you doing?" And Dave, you might say, "I'm doing fine."
Yeah.
Or let's just say if I said, "Hey, what'd you do this week?" And you say, "I went to Norris Lake," and I'm just making this up.
Yeah.
You ever told somebody what you're doing, and then they asked you, and then all of a sudden, I thought we were talking about me, and now we're talking about you. You ever
Yep.
you ever been in that?
Yep.
So when we ask somebody about, "Hey, David, how you doing?" "I'm doing fine." By the way, that's a terrible word. That's a terrible description of how I'm doing.
I'm doing fine.
Yeah, it's a terrible description. That means there's something there. And then you might say something like, "What makes like doing fine? What would make that terrific?"
Right.
So now this conversation's different, right? And then they're going to say something in that answer, and then you probed into that one. When you get to the third question, that's when the truth comes out, and that's where relationships build. And what we have to learn as human beings is God gave us like 2 eyes and 2 ears and only one of these, right? And we need to stop talking and observe with our eyes and observe with our ears, and be in relationship with people. And we can get to people quickly. We can get to
Yeah.
their hearts. We can get them to feel things and touch things.
Yeah. Quick more one more question from Lucy. Did people around you notice that you may need help?
Uh, me, no, I was, I tell you, great question, Lucy. I was so arrogant and I was so pompous. I was made out of Teflon. Actually, it wasn't Teflon. It was really weak glass. And because my ego was so big, I didn't want to be exposed.
Yeah.
And even when I reached out for help, and that I wanted to get fixed so nobody else knew. So there
Yeah.
wasn't even virtue in me asking for help in the beginning. My ego was that big. I mean, I
Yeah.
hate to say that out loud, but it's honest.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was lonely, tired, broken, and afraid. And I know I feel like I'm doing his work up there when I'm on a quest to find the lonely, tired, and broken and afraid, just like me. So, Lucy, that was a long answer to a very short question, but thanks for asking it.
Yeah. No, I really enjoy, hearing your insights, Scott, and your personal story and your background and just everything that's led up to this point in your life. Just and the stuff you're focusing on, I think is amazing. So I am a huge supporter of what you're doing, and I'm sure everybody watching is as well. So again, I really appreciate you coming on, and thanks everybody for chiming in, having great questions, and Scott, hopefully, if you get this thing going and you get this pilot program finished, I can't wait to follow it and see where it goes. So,
Yeah.
Thanks for being on, Scott. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and I will leave you all with some little speakeasy music to end the show here. If this is going to come on for everybody. Woo! Scott, thanks a lot, bud.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Have a great day, everybody.